It's a special episode on a Wednesday. It's the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. I'm Jamal. You can find me on the Twitter machine at Giant Crap. I'm here with 2 James and Hill Will Mahoney. How you doing, guys?
How's it going?
What's going on, dude?
Pretty good. We're also joined by the Proficient, Sage Phillips. You know him. You love him. He's definitely been making a mark here in the D.C. area in Nova Pro. Sage, man, you have a big match coming up this weekend that we'll talk about much later on down the road, but how you doing right now?
I'm good, man. Just relaxing from the long day and trying to get prepared for the weekend, mentally and physically. So,
well, let's talk about that for a little bit. How do you prepare for matches? Do you have any? Are you superstitious at all? Do you have any pre-match routines that you go through, or is it each opponent that dictates how you prepare?
It's mainly depend. Each opponent is different, obviously. So, obviously, I look for my tapes, or in this day and age, you can look up YouTube and find all sorts of Jonathan Gresham matches that you need for a tape study. But knowing Gresham's style and knowing the technical style that we wrestle, I try and do a lot of interval cardio at the gym, lifting the weight, keeping my cardio up to try and prepare myself physically, and to show that I can hang and keep up with Jonathan Gresham, who, in my opinion, is one of the best technical wrestlers in the world right now.
Yeah, no doubt.
You talking about physical and mentally. To take one step back, now it is no secret that you did suffer maybe one of the most gruesome injuries in all of sports with an ACL, a torn ACL. Does that ever come back to haunt you? As we've seen in all sports, a lot of people's career absolutely just be shattered afterwards. And I know you suffered it at a young age, but at all, does that ever come back and become a mental challenge for you?
It still is. I tore my ACL about 2 years ago, October 2016. It was just a freak accident before a show. It wasn't even in a match. I was rolling around in the ring, and I hopped off the corner and landed on my left foot, and then I started snapping. 2 weeks later, I found out my ACL was torn, so that was fun. I got surgery November 2016, and the recovery time was about 6 months. It's still a mental thing. I still wear a knee brace during my matches, more as a stability in my mind, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Physically, it's fine. I've not felt it since my surgery. But I know it's a challenge that I have to go through every day. But knowing that I was able to go through the 6 months, and like you said, like not everybody can recover from a torn ACL surgery. But I made it adamant that I could, and I even came back ahead of schedule. So, and just keeps driving me to show that even despite torn ACL, I'm still able to make the trips, make the drives, and be prepared for anything that comes at me.
Right on.
You talk about your torn ACL. You do wear the knee brace. Are you concerned at all that it may be a bit of a beacon for opponents to attack? Obviously, you're trying to protect yourself as best you can, but the other opponents have got to smell blood in the water when they see a man in a knee brace.
Absolutely, but also I've come to expect that now at this point. If you see a target, you're going to go after it. So now I've came up with ways to prepare myself for opponents that want to try and attack my knee brace and defend myself properly. So John will be smart if he wants to try to attack my knee, but he'll have to be prepared for what I come back with against him.
Ooh. So
it's held now since October 2016 is when the injury happened. So you've been back from it for quite a while now. So it's kind of combat tested, and if it survived John putting you in pretzel shapes before back in April when you came to Nova the first time to face him, then we've already at least seen that it can survive one go around with him. So it's not the first time you're in the water with him this time. So that's got to be a bit of a confidence booster.
For sure. Like I said, yeah, it has been 2 years since the surgery, and my knee brace is more just as a precaution more than anything. But overall, my knee is 100% healthy.
Awesome.
Yeah, fair enough. So I like to ask wrestlers this because it's such a grueling business. Your knee may be 100%, but overall, how are you? And when was the last time you have overall felt at 100%?
It's a really good question for wrestlers because it's no secret that our bodies do get banged up a lot in the wrestling business. Right now, I'm feeling really good health-wise. I've been going to the gym and going to the chiropractor and keeping my body as in best shape as I can. My diet has been a lot more on track as well, and I've actually gained size and muscle. So, in terms of physically, I feel like I'm the best in shape I could be for Jonathan Gresham this weekend. And right now, I would say I'm in the best shape in my career as well. But like you said, injuries do come and go, but as wrestlers, we learn to adapt and compromise through them.
So, right, you haven't injured. What keeps you from going off the rails, so to speak, when something that debilitating sidelines you?
It's more like with my knee injury. I just saw the success that my friends were going through. Guys like Mance Warner, Cole Radrick, Trip Cassidy, friends and my peers that I see being successful. And while I was out, my mentality is I'm going to be right back on the ladder, climbing up with them, ready to take the wrestling world by storm with them once I come back. So that was always a motivation for me. And just to prove to the people like this, again, despite a knee injury, I was able to overcome it. And just seeing, I believe it was around the same time Seth Rollins had his knee injury as well. So seeing his documentary too and seeing his recovery, it was motivating for me as well.
I was going to say, so the injury did happen in 2016, and I believe you're listed as starting your professional wrestling career in 2015. Mm-hmm. We were first accustomed to you in 2016 as well. I'm wondering, and I referenced again in all sports, and it was such a gruesome injury as a torn ACL. A lot of people's styles change. We've seen by far a lot, especially in football. A lot of people do not return to the hard hitting running back unless they're Adrian Peterson. But we got you after the injury. Did your style at all change post injury? Was there a difference?
Not greatly. I've always used a grounded technical style compared to a lot of wrestlers. I'm aware of where my feet. I'm more aware of how I plant myself in terms of where my feet are in ring. But I would say that my style really hasn't changed overall. I'm just more. What's the right word for it? Not cautious, but just
aware.
Aware, yes. Aware of where my feet are, aware of how I land.
Okay. We did have Alley Cat on the show last week, and I wanna bring this up before I forget. We talked about the trips. We talked about the commitment of coming to Nova Pro each and every month. You are obviously a part of that as well. Not only just a part of that, but you're also part of that carload, from what I'm understanding. And I forgot how we got to this, but she mentioned that within every trip she has to stop at every Starbucks, and then she said, poor Sage. So does that mean you're not a coffee Starbucks person, or you're just like me, you don't like making a lot of frequent stops?
Not a big fan of making frequent stops, especially with that trip, but I accommodate for Alley Cat and her what her and Christy Jane's quote as their Starbies. So let them have their Starbies, and then we can continue on the road. I love both those girls, though. They're great people.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, if you guys ever get bored and want to record some podcast stuff on that trip, I'm sure that's got to be hella funny.
Oh, man, yeah, we need to definitely do that, record a whole trip.
I mean, let's just start controversy now. What's the best burger spot in America?
Well, if I didn't say Whataburger, I think they would be very upset with me.
Smart man. He knows the score from traveling with those two. When we talked about that with them last week, we had to, tell them right off the bat that, us all being from outside DC, we don't have Whataburger since that's such a Southern-based thing. So it's like for our crew, it's like, okay, maybe we've had it once or twice or something in our travels, but
it's overrated.
Yeah, we cannot crow about it as loud as those two do.
Right. And me being a Midwest boy, I don't get a Sheetz or Wawa like the DC area and the East Coast have. So I look forward to that. But Alley Cat's very vocal about her dislike for Sheetz and Wawa and how she thinks they're overrated. So if she gets her Starbies, I get my Sheetz at some point during the trip.
There you go. So you're on the Sheetz side of the debate. You're telling us, Sage.
I'm a Sheetz guy.
Awesome. So let's see what else we got going on. So from what I'm seeing, you started up in 2015 is when you started training?
I started January of 2015. I trained for 10 months under Billy Roc from the School of Roc, and I had my first match October 4th of 2015.
Wow, okay. So that's based in Indiana, right?
Yes, Lafayette, Indiana.
Okay. That whole Midwest connection that from what I was seeing, a lot of folks came through there. From what I'm seeing, old Manser is in your same class, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Old Mance. Him and Luke Lawson. And we had about 7 people total in our class that graduated from the 2015 class.
Cool.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Take it.
No, I'm just gonna say, in such a hot territory, how did the selection process go in finding your school?
I always wanted to do the School of Roc just for I grew up watching Trip Cassidy, Dale Patrick's, now known as Ruby Riott, then known as Heidi Lovelace, and seeing them come from the School of Roc. I've known Billy when I was a fan front row at Insanity Pro Wrestling in Indianapolis. I used to go every month. So I knew when the time was right, the school I wanted to go to would be the School of Roc.
Okay. No-brainer. No, it was a no-brainer for you.
Yeah, definitely. It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
And I think it makes sense too. I mean, you so far in this show, you've been very adamant about being around good people that motivate you. So, to train with them day in and day out throughout the injury, even to now, I mean, it's just a testament how far you've came. And I think, before we started and even before the show, I told you before when we talked in person, this is something we wanted to, we definitely wanted to have you on the show. And we try to get people at certain spots within Nova Pro booking to do it. And we pretty much can agree, since your first debuting show from Who Is That Guy facing Ken Dixon to this person that's taking on you took on the 1%, to you doing double duty at the Old Dominion Rumble. You did the pre-show with us when the odds was against you, to you qualifying for the Old Dominion Rumble. You faced one of the best in the world in Jonathan Gresham that day. Through your battle with the Ultra J, the PWI Ultra J Championship, I mean, you went from being a pre-show guy, a guy we didn't know, to a pre-show guy, to one of the main guys. And this is all within. Crazy thing is, we was looking like, oh, this man has covered a lot in like 2 years, like really.
Yeah, man, it's wild. Just even you talking about it's crazy to me. I just remember that. The first show I was on, the first show I actually attended was the month before. I think the show was, I forget the show name, but it was Cedric Alexander and Chet Sterling may have been in that show. And
that was American Slang, right?
American Slang, yes, that's right, American Slang. That was the first show I attended. Just trying to show face, and just seeing the crowd, seeing how they were into almost everything, the comedy, the wrestling, the hardcore style, and it was a very refreshing environment. So I knew just seeing the show that I wanted to make Nova Pro a goal. So the next month was my debut at One Crazy Summer against Ken Dixon, and I had gotten there, I believe, 15 minutes till bell time I was supposed to wrestle. So match went well, and since then I did one more match for Nova, and then my injury happened. I came back, I believe March of last year, and continued to do pre-show matches until I got my first victory in the pre-show match of my anniversary of last year's. It was I'm not bad with show names. I remember matches on shows. It was the show where Angelo Slane wrestled Keith Lee.
Arguably one of the best Nova Pro shows.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, man.
And
that was my first victory in the pre-show. So, and then from there, I believe it was 2 months later, Logan East LaRoe issued a challenge, and I accepted the challenge. And we had our series.
Again, doing double duty.
Yep.
Yeah, because I remember when you came out, I was like,
pay back.
Yeah. I was like, Sage. I was like, isn't he tired? But I mean, when duty calls,
an opportunity presents itself, and then like a star is born. You know, I mean, all those months of pre-show matches. I remember that show for sure, and just I think everyone kind of had the same like reaction when you came out, where it's kind of like, what? Like, I think anyone was expecting it, you know, and then probably on top of that, once it started, most folks weren't expecting it to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, the upset of upsets happens, and my God, that building came unglued.
Yeah, I remember the feeling that night. Oh man, just hearing the 1, 2, 3, and even though the decision got changed, unfortunately, just for those 10 minutes, I was the champion. What a high! It was a definite high in wrestling that you can get.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome moment. I was kind of like I didn't even know what to expect for the rest of the show. Like I was like, wow, that happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
So does it do you justice? Me being a fan of yours by saying that you are. We could consider your story the underdog story here. Because
Absolutely. It is definitely the story of literally starting from the bottom and climbing and scratching your way to the top.
Yeah. It absolutely feels as much. Again, I mean, sticking through there, and you know, we look back at a lot of the people that's been on the pre-shows. A lot of these people didn't stick around, but you know, for your hard work, dedication to trips, consistently coming each and every month to being one of the main guys. And I mean, I might misquote Mike here on this one, but I remember, you know, chatting with him at times and bringing you up. And, you know, when it comes down like you and Dominic Greene match, and I was like, yo, he was just like, that's going to be a pretty damn good match. And I mean, when you got when you have the confidence from the main promoter and booker of a company putting you in high profile matches, that's just the epitome of what hard work can do.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm thankful so much for what Mike's been able to give me, and he's given me opportunities to prove myself. And I feel like with every match I do prove that I can hang with some of the best wrestlers in the country going on right now. Oh
yeah. So, on that note, too, we'll get to Gresham in a second, but let's talk a little bit about let's talk about some of the matches at Nova Pro. One of the interesting matches is the first annual Old Dominion Rumble. You chatted with us at the pre-show, and you did qualify to be in it, and I was pulling for you, not even being biased. It's on record back then. I was pulling for you to win it. And then you came out number 2, and I was like, oh, come on now. This is not fair. He just worked the match, and now he comes out number 2.
Right.
But I had to look this up. You stayed in the Rumble for 45 minutes.
Yeah, man, 45 minutes.
Even defeating or eliminating one of the biggest wrestlers in the Rumble in Mecha Mercenary. So, I mean, you were just full of surprises that day. And eventually a hot gunner came in and eliminated you. But again, kudos to yourself again for doing double duty. You got eliminated by one of the finalists. So that, you know, that speaks to the volumes there. But I mean, talking about your knee being tested, your stamina absolutely proved its worth that day too.
I definitely slept well that night. Yeah, the Dominion Rumble was planned, but I know Jonathan and I was not announced or advertised at all that evening, so that was a surprise for me as well. So getting to wrestle Jonathan that night, who I consider a friend and also a mentor for me, it was special. And then to prove myself again in the Rumble, lasting, like you said, almost 45 minutes against some of the top talent of of the whole roster and outside the roster. Definite. I will say Nova is definitely my test per month, I would say.
Well, if the Rumble tested the cardio and all the drives and everything have tested probably your heart and your mind, putting in all the miles, once you got past the Rumble, the matches with Dominic Greene, my God, those had to test just the pure toughness and the physicality. Those were some of the stiffest battles I've seen at Nova in like age, maybe the history of the darn place. I mean, just the sheer impact of like Dom laying into you in some of those matches. There was a lot of people in that building, especially I remember the first night of the Commonwealth Cup, the Commonwealth Cup match. That was the one I remember a lot of people just being like, "Oh my God, Sage is just getting lit up out here," and you just kept coming, and that's, I think you won a lot of people were on the fence. That's the night you won a lot of people over, myself included. I'll say.
I was going to say, and let J Lee Photography be a witness. You didn't back down one bit, toe to toe, neck to neck, eye to eye with him at every point. One of the most fiercest wrestlers in all of wrestling, Dominic Greene, and you didn't back down from this guy one bit. I mean, even one snap power driver, that was like, oh, this guy's, he's done. Oh, that's it. And you know, and I was even worried. I was like, oh, he's holding the neck. I didn't know what to think, but you were right back at it again in a month to face him. So, yeah, talk about so many emotions facing such a competitor as Dominic Greene.
Yeah, Dominic Greene obviously has a reputation with him being a shoot purple belt in jiu-jitsu. A lot of people said that you guys were surprised with how much he tested me and the strikes in that match. When it comes to those kind of matches, the mentality that a lot of people get on me about my size in wrestling, even if it's like a passive aggressive joke or anything like that. But when I have matches like that, I'm seeing Dominic eye to eye with me, testing me. It just fuels me more to keep fighting back and pushing back to show, hey, like, you're not gonna be able to bully me. I'm gonna stand up to you. And I definitely remember the strikes. I remember the pain in those matches. But I showed Dom that I'm not afraid of him. And I feel like I left my point across despite him beating me in the knockout and tap out match. Like, he had to knock me out to keep me down.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that absolutely, like, performances like that transcend size. It's like, even if people are just seeing you for the first time and you come out there and they're like, oh, who's this guy? It's like, after a match like that, it don't matter. There's like, geez, this guy's got heart. This guy's got some guts. Just the sheer amount of punishment in both of those matches. Like, I know they opened my eyes, and from there, it's like, you know, in my mind, it makes you a made man at Nova. Once people see those matches, it raises the bar completely.
Absolutely.
Let's see.
Yeah, so I want to ask you, and obviously, we can definitely see you this coming Friday at Nova Pro Wrestling. That's the Annandale Volunteer Fire Department, 7128 Columbia Pike in Annandale, Virginia. Doors open at 7:30. Bell time's at 8. Get your tickets now. VA Wrestling on the Twitter machine if you want to reach out to the guys. But yeah, it's going to be a hell of a match between you and Gresham because of the two similar styles that you guys work. As far as your style goes, did you fall into it? Were you inspired by it, or by other wrestlers that led you to the more technical, more proficient, as it were, style that you wrestle? Like, how did you come into that?
It was the style that I wanted to go for, getting into professional wrestling. I grew up watching independent wrestling 2012, 2011, and seeing guys like Davey Richards, Zack Sabre Jr., Jonathan Gresham too, that technical wrestling style, Doug Williams from the UK. I always found that style fascinating, unique, just for the fact there's so many variables and so many little intricate things that people don't normally see in wrestling matches, to me, that made them special. And I feel like with my style, I can make something unique to the table that other people wouldn't see in other matches.
Yeah, absolutely. But and when you're starting out, you definitely have to make a name for yourself and be just different enough to be acceptable, but not, intolerant. But I guess the question is, people like what they like, and you're not going to please everybody. Mm-hmm. But how do you connect with a crowd when you work such a slowed, methodical pace with technical wrestling, where it's more about defense than just the big lug beating the hell out of somebody?
For sure. It's not it's technical wrestling, but it's also my style is defensive in a way that I can learn how to counter and come up with ways to counter my opponent's attacks that come at me. I can do technical wrestling, but I can be fast if I need to be. I can do high flying if I need to be. I view myself as a hybrid wrestler still, but my proficiency per se is technical wrestling. But I'm able to, like, as you've seen through Nova Pro, I've been able to hang with the strikers like Dominic Greene, the technical wrestlers like Gresham, the brawlers like Ken Dixon, the masterminds like Jimmy Jacobs.
No, absolutely. And yeah, almost forgot about Jimmy Jacobs there. So when you right, can't do that. Definitely can't do that.
Not to even mention the Commonwealth Cup finals, which was
Tracy Williams,
Eric Royal,
and Eric Royal. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about mixing styles in one mixing bowl right there, right?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Jamal. I'm gonna cut you off.
So okay, so then you have and what you bring to the table as a hybrid wrestler. Are you thinking, like chess? Is it like 3 moves ahead of your opponent? Are you who dictates the match? Like, are you leading him into a trap, or is it a feeling out process? Like, take us through what it means to be a technical wrestler.
It can be both, depending on who I'm facing. For example, if I'm wrestling Gresham, I'm aware more of what he brings to the table through tape study and being in the ring with him before. So in the beginning, we would probably test each other out to see who can get the upper hand wrestling-wise. But as we go on, we'll try and come up with strategies and techniques to one-up each other. And it is a game of chess in wrestling form. And the ending goal is to get the last piece and win. So against Gresham, it'll be the biggest test for me again, because I proved I could hang with him last time, but this time I want to prove that I can actually beat him.
Do you now? I don't want to take Jamal's credit because I believe you were the one that said that, but you said Gresham, and I think we both agree here that one of our favorite wrestlers, me and Jamal's, and maybe Will's too, is Dean Malenko, and I believe Jamal had once quoted we're saying that Gresham is this day and age Dean Malenko, which
I said he was the black Dean Malenko.
Okay, well, because talk about technical wrestling, let's talk about, I'm not going to say the stereotype, but the conception that all cruiserweights do, fly and all this other stuff. But back in the day, there was a great mix in cruiserweights that were very good, proficient technical wrestlers. We're talking about again the Dean Malenkos, the Chris Benoits, the Taz and stuff like that. Do you take any time to look back at some of some of those greats back in the day to learn and study?
Absolutely, yeah. I've watched a lot of Dean Malenko tapes. I've actually even did a Dean Malenko seminar in Cleveland, Ohio last year. Chris Benoit, even Jericho's known for his high flying style. Eddie Guerrero's known for his high flying style, but both of them too great hybrid wrestlers, great technical wrestlers in their own rights.
Yeah,
the classics with Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero, obviously. But yeah, like it's my job as a wrestler to learn from the past. So when I have the time, I do. And obviously through the network now, it's very easy compared to even 5 years ago to be able to find the tapes that you need to study at this point.
It's not all it's not all Hurricane Ranas like many people would think. That's like, oh, you're a small guy, oh, you must be doing like Hurricane Ranas and stuff. It's like, nah, there's like, you know, plenty of like submission based stuff and mat work and just stuff.
You have no idea
the ropes.
how often
it's like
people. You have no idea how often people. A lot of times for some promotion, they see me like, oh, you're gonna be a high flyer. I'm like, maybe, likely not though.
No 450 splashes coming this week, right?
Right. Well, you never know. You never know.
Hey, it might be what it takes to put Gresham away. So hey,
you can't give the secrets away, you know.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We would never want to put the Proficient one in such a situation before such a big match.
Exactly. So as you've been going through your wrestling career over the last 3 or so years, what has been the biggest reaction, or has there been a big reaction from your friends and family on your personal life? Are they, because when you hear like, I want to be a wrestler, okay, it's not something you generally take seriously. So how, you know, as you've been coming from the rise in the indie scene, and it has been a rise, are people more accepting of what it means to actually be a wrestler, and the misconceptions therein? Right. My family, they are happy for me chasing my dream, but they aren't. They've never been fans of wrestling, so they don't. They're happy for me, but they don't get why I am into it. They're like, "Oh, good for you for doing it. It's a good hobby," but they don't realize, no, I'm wanting to make a career out of this. Right. In terms of friends, after I wrestled Jimmy, and it got posted online, a friend from high school who I haven't talked to in 5 years, we went to a show together and we saw Jimmy live in the crowd, and he congratulated me, saying, "Hey, it's cool that we went from watching him to seeing you actually wrestling Jimmy is wild to see, and it's awesome that you're chasing your dream." So moments like that, it's cool just seeing years ago, hanging out with people, just to those same people congratulating you on your hard work. Well, that's great, and it's really good to see, you know, people recognize their talent they're in. I guess so you're doing it. You're making the towns. You're in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, Louisville, Kentucky.
Right. From Bloomington, Indiana. How important is it for you to get out of the Midwest and, you know, see all of the country? And is there somewhere that you haven't been that you would like to break into?
To me, that's one of my favorite parts about wrestling in general is the travel. I love, because of wrestling, I've been able to wrestle in almost, I believe it's 11 states now. Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, New Jersey, Virginia. I get to travel the country, which is awesome. I've not been to the West Coast yet. I definitely want to make that a goal. I've not flown for wrestling yet, and I definitely want to make that a goal soon. But yeah, like, to me, the travel is one of the best perks in wrestling. You get to see the world where a lot of people would never. Like, you drive through these small towns and you think, wow, these people will probably never be outside this town in their lives. But yeah, here I am going to 3 different states in one trip.
Yeah. Yeah, you go to some small town, you say that you're from, you live in Louisville, and they go, oh, that's the big city.
Right.
I want to bring up something. So you did just bring up Jimmy Jacobs, and I literally forgot to mention this. So Jimmy Jacobs, the Zombie Princess.
Yeah.
I mean, being in the ring with him, and I remember that match starting off, and that had been a complete mental battle that turned upside down and got absolutely brutal. Now, we talked about the physical, the mental, and the whole cardio aspect that you've been tested for, but all that in one match. Can you describe that? And actually, too, describe the the surreal feeling of being in the ring with someone you watched.
Yeah, like you said, like the physical, the mental, the cardio, it was all jumbled into one in that match against Jimmy. I will admit, it's one of the most painful matches I've ever gone through. If you get suplexed on the floor 3 times, it's safe to say that it'll be a painful match on your list. But But like you said, the first time I ever saw Jimmy Jacobs, I was at my grandparents' house, and I had just heard about Ring of Honor, flipping through channels, and I found HDNet. I was like, oh, we have HDNet. And the first episode of the HDNet tapings was Jimmy Jacobs versus Tyler Black, now known as Seth Rollins. Yeah. So, like, when I stayed across the ring from that moment flashed through my mind, and it's like, okay, now it's time to prove that I can hang with him as a wrestler now.
Right on. So, go ahead.
Oh, no, just saying, but yeah, it's just a surreal moment, but definitely, I would say, for a match, the biggest test I've ever faced.
Jimmy Jacobs, interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess in a sense too that there, and correct me if I'm wrong, there has to be such a wow factor in it, and maybe the surreal moment of like that person was in my TV screen, now he's in front of me and he's ready to toss me around a little bit.
Right, but it's also the mentality too, like, okay, I'm going to show you that I'm not just a fan anymore. Like, I'm going to show you I'm a peer. In fact, I'm better than a peer. I'm going to beat you in that ring, which I did. Despite all the punishment he gave me, I was able to beat Jimmy Jacobs.
Yeah. Now the Proficient Sage Phillips, we get it. It's been on display day in and day out at Nova Pro. Where did the Spitfire moniker come from?
The Spitfire moniker came early in my career. It was more just being the burst of energy and like you said, taking so much punishment, but in like matches like against Dominic Greene, being able to fight back and through bursts of energy. That's what the Spitfire name came from. I don't use it as much now, but for me, it's also a side of me that helps me get through matches being a Spitfire.
Got you. Go ahead. You about to say something, Will?
Yeah. Looking at his match list here, I'm thinking, of course, we're focusing so much on Nova, since that's where you have the most familiarity. But taking Nova out of the equation, and I'm seeing you were in the Dynamite Cup, you were just up at Jakara in the Young Lions Cup match. I mean, you're going all over the place. What are some of your favorite matches that you've had outside of Nova? Or favorite opponents, just stuff that we should be on the lookout for that isn't happening under the Nova banner.
Absolutely. Where to start? I'd be Mid-South versus David Starr, November of last year. That match, David Starr definitely tested me in the ring, and very physical match. But another cool moment too is Starr was another guy I've been following on the Indies for a while. Like you said, the Dynamite Cup finals of this year was a surreal moment for me. I believe the whole Dynamite Cup of this year is on YouTube, so you guys can check that out.
Cool.
I believe like my 8th match was against now known as Ruby Riott, back then known as Heidi Lovelace, for the at the time the Ring of Champions tapings, which was tapings that were under the School of Roc banner. What else? A mentor that I've known, but you guys may not know, Christian Rose from the Illinois area. I had a 15-minute draw with him through New Wave Pro Wrestling. That's also on YouTube. I had a series of matches from January to, I want to say, March to April, a series of matches with Brett Havoc at WCWO in Indianapolis. Most of those matches are on YouTube as well.
There you go. All kinds of stuff to add to the watch list to check out.
Not even Absolutely. Just that. Looking at the bookings coming up as well, too, outside of Nova this week. I've been trying to collaborate them all together. But, yeah, it looks like you got definitely a busy end of August. But September looks to be completely booked up. You'll be at New Wave Pro. You will be what is this? This will be on Fight TV too as well. Welterweight wrestling.
Yep.
What else do you have going on?
Nova that month. What is September offhand? It's with so much going on and how busy I am during the day. I usually go per week basis of what I have wrestling wise.
I feel you.
If I have a calendar on me, it's a lot easier to think of what I have.
Yeah. Adulting 101.
That's a good problem to have, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Business is booming.
Absolutely.
And just to be politically correct, are any of these new bookings, are these first time in the territories?
I believe for these promotions, I've been to all of them per se. New Wave is going to be on the 8th. Is going to be a bit of a intimate environment because it's going to be 20 minutes from Bloomington, Indiana. So friends and family are going to be able to see me wrestle in that near home, which is a rare thing to happen.
Awesome.
Welterweight wrestling is always fun to go up to in Cleveland, Ohio. They run about 2 to 3 shows a year, but the welterweight shows are jam packed with action and some of the best young talents coming out of the Midwest area and the East Coast. East Coast, West Coast. I believe they bring in talent from Mexico as well. And like you said, they can see the action on Fight TV for them.
That's right. You're also at Pro Wrestling Freedom, looks like, coming up in
September 14th, I believe, is that date for that one. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is just over the bridge of Louisville, Kentucky, and Jeffersonville, Indiana. I'll be wrestling. Apparently, I'm not very familiar with this gentleman, Ryan Dukey, apparently, who was in the very first Pro Wrestling Freedom show back when they were running in Central Kentucky. So it'll be a definite interesting challenge and somebody I gotta definitely get some research on.
Yeah, one week at a time. You guys definitely a big challenge coming up this weekend as well. But yeah, business is good. So, bookings is popping.
Yeah,
man. Just trying to stay busy and trying to stay consistent.
Are you just gonna say something, Jamal?
No, I just want to. Yeah, so you're in the Midwest. You're based in the Midwest. Is there a difference in wrestling between here and some of the bigger markets on the East Coast? Maybe not DC, but in Jersey or in other towns. Are the crowds that much different? Is it? How does that feel when you walk into a gym in New Jersey versus a gym in Kentucky?
Depending on where I wrestle, the crowds can be different. A crowd wrestling. Nova is a good example in terms of like how the crowd reacts to almost everything they see. In some crowds in the Midwest territory, it can be more casual and more just one there just for friends and family. I'm not as into independent wrestling as other fans are. But yeah, it just varies between show to show and crowd to crowd, and depends on what kind of environment that promotion's wanting to promote per se. And then obviously there's some shows where there's barely a crowd, and you gotta wrestle there as well. Obviously.
No, obviously it's so. How do you deal with that? A lot of the wrestling, one half is the physical, and the other half is the mental. And the mental does include crowd participation. But if you are in a laundromat with 16 of your closest friends, how does that differ than a match where you have a raucous Alexandria Firehouse, for example?
If I'm in front of 16 people, I'm going to give those 16 people the best match they can see. And that's the mentality I have every time I wrestle.
So it doesn't matter if it's 50 or it's 500. This is what it is.
Yeah, I'm going to give them the best show that they paid their hard-earned money for, because they did pay money for that event, even if it's only 16 people they paid to see me wrestle. So it would be an insult to them to not go hard, go 100% in my matches.
Well, I don't mean like whether you're going 100% or you're dogging it or anything like that. I mean like from a interaction standpoint, when you have 200, 300, 500 screaming fans and under 20, does that change your reaction or your ability to work a match? For example, if the crowd's not into it and you're a crowd and crowd work is part of your one's gimmick, then how do you deal with that type of change?
For sure.
When you are trying to play to the crowd that isn't there.
Right. If it's a smaller crowd and there's at least one person reacting, I'll try and focus my attention to that one person to get the reaction and maybe get the confidence of the rest of that crowd to speak up. Because for a lot of shows, and this happens in not just wrestling crowds, but like concerts, it just can take one person to get the whole crowd alive. So if you can get that one person going and get the whole crowd alive, then you've done your job correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in a wrestling show before, and the crowd was suffering from rigor mortis, and I've been to other shows where the crowd was that white hot, and you got to think with a dead crowd, and I mean toe tag dead. You got to think, well, Jesus, how is it for the guys in the ring that are going through the matches they put together? They're giving it their all, and the crowd's like, yay. So I don't know. I just think it's just kind of odd to be out there performing your hearts out and with a crowd that's, for whatever reason, not overly or outwardly receptive. That's got to play on you, though, right?
I see your point. It just depends on crowd per crowd. Like, I do in Mid-South, for example, like they've seen a lot of wrestling, so they're not bored, but they're accustomed to all the action that they've seen, but they still appreciate what I do. Like, and I get that from during intermission, before a show, after a show, they come up to me and saying, "Hey, I appreciate what you do. Can I get a shirt? You had a good match out there." So even if they're quiet, but I know they've enjoyed the show, I've done my job right.
All right, fair enough. So then let's get into, unless we have any objections, the reason why we're here.
Just one question too. Now listen to this question out, because it may start off like it sounds bad, but it's not.
Okay.
So what is your thoughts on kids at Nova Pro?
Some of the kids at Nova.
Yeah. Do you remember the time when you gave I think it was a little girl, and you gave her your glasses?
Yeah, and she was not happy and not with it at all. Uh-oh. Yes, I remember that.
It's I think it's a noble gesture, considering that at times Nova can become a fashion statement, as a lot of talent have really nice glasses, and obviously I have a pair like yourself. And I think it's a noble thing when you do give them. I mean, that takes a lot of pride, if you ask me, to give someone your glasses and then to completely reject them. I was just like, oh, you kind of laughed.
I tried, and obviously she wasn't for it. I was like, okay, I'll be Dominic Greene, and hopefully that'll win the heart.
well, full disclosure, that little girl is my daughter.
Was it?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I can report that she did enjoy the glasses later once she got home later that weekend.
Good deal.
And they are around here. They're around here somewhere. I was hoping I'd be able to pull them out really quick, but she did like them. She's a big fan of Alley Cat, and so I think the deal was another wrestler coming up to her threw her off for the moment. But yeah,
just surprised her. That's
exactly.
Yeah, I was kind of.
It wasn't a wrestler she already knew, so she's kind of like, I don't know. Stranger danger, maybe.
Yeah, I was kind of standing off or towards the cam side, and I was like, wait, what's going on over there? And then I remember I glanced over and I see the kid. I was like, oh, it doesn't look too happy.
She was having none of it. There was no. I was like, let's get your glasses. Come on, they're just glasses.
I remember you trying to encourage her, and it just wasn't working.
Yeah, can't control these kids sometimes.
No, you can't.
So yeah, go ahead.
It's awesome too, though, that she I see her support for Alley Cat and how much she gets into wrestling, and it's cool that Nova Pro is that outlet for her, and that she gets to see people like Alley and all the rest of us at Nova, and having a good time helps us motivate ourselves as professionals to make sure her and the other kids at wrestling have a good time.
Yep, she knows, and she knows who you are now from that whole interaction. She totally knows now. She's like, "Oh yeah, the wrestler's gonna give me the glasses." I'm like, "Yeah, why were you scared when he went to do it?" Now you're all into it, but at the time, right. Things happen.
That's an awesome moment. That's cool. We might need to bring her on here to put ice on the cake.
Yeah,
you ruined the spot. You're supposed to help him get over as a baby face. Damn it.
So yeah, all roads lead to this Friday, August 24th, 2018. We're back at the Annandale Fire Department, coming off one crazy show at Elks Lounge last month. Or was it this? Oh, last month. It was last month.
It was last month.
Yeah, but we're back home, or one of the homes back at the Annandale Volunteer Fire Department. That is 7128 Columbia Pike, Annandale, Virginia. All information for the Summer of George event can be found at VA Wrestling on Twitter, their Tumblr page. Even if you can't find that, all that information is also linked to our website at biggobellgroup.com. You are facing, as you said, and I'll have to agree, one of the best in the world in Jonathan Gresham, the octopus Jonathan Gresham, which I'm going to bring up in a second too, who is been making his rounds currently, making a nice tour in the UK. And he's obviously going to be back in town, back in the States for this. And I spoke to him earlier, and I wanted to collect his thoughts for his rematch with you. You guys did face, as we mentioned earlier, you guys did face, and you were not, you were not successful, but you also wasn't prepared, considering that match wasn't totally announced, to face one of the best in the world. You came up short. You have plenty of time this time, mentally, physically. You study this guy. As you said, Jonathan Gresham tapes are all out there, period. You've seen this guy put on clinics with some of the best in the world all over, not just the States. He just came off the UK tour, like I said. But all roads leads to Friday.
Absolutely,
so,
man.
With that being said, one, now you have quoted him as being the mentor, and someone you look up to. First thing I want to ask you is, one of your signature moves is an octopus stretch, which is obviously one of his signature moves. Was there was there any dialogue between that? Did you ask him about perfecting it? Did he give you a blessing in using it? Was there any of that going on with that?
I have Gresham's blessing in using the move. I had used it the first time I used it. It got posted online on Instagram. He commented saying, "Not sure what's going on here, but I like what I see." So I was like, "Oh, do you not want me to use this move?" And he's like, "No, you're fine, you're fine." But back to being the mentor thing. 2017, I believe it was a year ago. Jonathan Gresham ran the Back to Basics camp, which was a 2-day camp near his area in Pennsylvania. I drove the 14-hour round trip to train under him for those 2 days. In those 2 days, I was able to learn a lot, literally back to basics from him. Helped my style, helped my footwork, especially coming back. I believe it was 4 months from coming back from my knee injury. And then later last year, he ran a second camp, which was 3 days. And again, just being around him for 3 days, listening to him talk, listening to his psychology in wrestling, being able to roll around with him. He is my mentor in that aspect. But this coming Friday, like you said, Gresham's been a busy man this past few weeks, wrestling Ring of Honor, wrestling in the UK. For me, Gresh, if I lose to Gresham, to a lot of people it wouldn't be a surprise. So I have nothing to lose if I lose to Jonathan Gresham. But if I beat Jonathan Gresham, the guy that just challenged Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor World Championship, the guy that ran the Back to Basics camp, the guy that's headlining all these shows in the UK right now, how much will that affect my stock, and how much will that affect his stock? To me, that's the question. So Gresham, bring your best, because if you underestimate me, it'll be your downfall, Gresh. And we'll still be friends at the end. I'll still ask for your advice, but my goal Friday is to beat him.
Yeah, if you want to talk about a golden plaque on your mantle, beating Gresham speaks to that volume up and down. And again, he's fresh off the UK tour. I'm pretty sure they're pleased with what they saw. I expect him to be making returns there shortly thereafter. And yeah, he's a busy man. And I've never been in the ring with him, obviously, but I've spoken to him a lot at shows and stuff. And you're talking about not only just one of the best wrestlers in the ring, but outside the ring, one of the best people I've met. And he's always very focused. So let's not get the misconception that him coming off this tour, coming back, there's going to be any type of regression from jet lag or just the physicality that he endured in this tour.
Absolutely not. Right.
He's always on his A game.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting the best of him as he steps foot in the ring. With that being said, too, and I know you probably couldn't speak to this, but is there a plan? Is there a weakness that you being in the business, you being in the ring with him before, think you can exploit here?
Well, we'll have to find out Friday, and we'll see.
I like it.
No secrets.
Keep those cards close to the vest.
I'm not doing no recon here. I'm just wondering. I mean, this is championship round here when you're talking about Gresham here. You know what I mean? He just came off of a really impressive match with Tim Thatcher last month. Talk about that crazy show. Period. That match alone was worth every bit of admission. But you know, just seeing if we have anything to take for us to be able to take in, and then all the fans that's listening as we shoot there in there come Friday.
One thing we forgot to mention, though, for folks that are listening that aren't in the DC area, is that the show is going to be streaming on Powerbomb on Friday night. So there is a way to see Sage Phillips versus Jonathan Gresham without being in the building, and you can even see it with the free 20-day trial from Nova Pro with the code Nova Pro. So, folks, get on it. Powerbomb this Friday. You don't even have to be there to see all the action that goes down.
Great plug. Great plug.
So there's officially no excuse.
Yep, there is no excuse. There's going to be great wrestling Friday night. Get on it.
Yeah.
Well,
so
you have this match with Jonathan Gresham, and let's say that you do beat him, because this is what you're preparing for. You're preparing for a win. Mm-hmm. Then what? This person up the ladder that you're interested in facing, perfecting your craft and honing your skill.
That was a good question for Nova.
That doesn't have to be within Nova. It could be anywhere. But if Jonathan Gresham's a boss battle, then who's the next level?
Oh, man. There's so many people I would like to wrestle. But after seeing that match Gresham had with Thatcher, Thatcher's definitely up there. Tim Thatcher's definitely up on that list.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, personally, selfishly, I would love to see you and Darby Allin. I think that would be, I think that would be pretty awesome. John Kerman would be really interesting, just two contrasting styles and but similar, size and shape.
Right.
I would love to see you and Logan one more time.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Especially as we move into like the post 1% era. But then again, he's a different guy with Stokely in his corner, so that's that would be interesting. But just me as a fan, I would love to see that happen.
I would love to wrestle all those people. So hopefully all those can happen again in the future.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe we've seen you in tag action at Nova Pro, but you do have a tag team partner that you do run with at other promotions.
Yes. I did do, I believe, 2 tag matches in Nova. A pre-show match with AC Hawks.
Oh, right.
I remember tagging with him. I tagged with Ace Perry and Cabana Man Dan when we did that. What kind of match was it? The Survivor Series style.
That's right.
That we did against 1%.
That's right. Yep.
But yes, in the Midwest, Cole Radrick, I tag with him as the Hysteria. We are both from the same town area. He lives 20 minutes away from Bloomington, Indiana. Trained not with the School of Roc, but he came up alongside the other School of Roc students, and he started wrestling around the same time I did. So we just naturally click. We get along well. We're good friends outside of wrestling. I believe right now Cole is dealing with some head injuries right now, so he's slowing down and taking some time to recuperate, which I'm glad he's doing.
Right on.
But Cole, as a singles wrestler and as a tag wrestler, is really good. He had classics against Sammy Callahan, IWA Mid-South, wrestled in Rockstar Pro for months on end, proving himself over there. At some point in the Doddswood line, I would love to tag with Cole Radrick and bring the Hysteria to Nova Pro. But for that, it would be more a time and place thing to make sure Cole is healthy in general for that event.
Yeah. Something unrelated, but similarly related. Yeah, a lot of your tweets are hashtag ringcraft and wizardry. How big of a Harry Potter nerd are you?
Gotta be one if I'm using that hashtag, man. I just remember I was reading the books and just like, witchcraft and wizardry. I believe I try to be a ring wizard. It makes sense to bring ringcraft and wizardry to professional wrestling. So that was the idea with that. Yeah, I'm a Ravenclaw guy through and through.
I am not surprised. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
I was just wondering where it was going. So,
no, I mean, personally, I just came back from New York from seeing the plays, so we're definitely we're going to have some conversations about this. Because we got a movie coming out in November, so I don't know. Well, that's a different podcast.
For sure.
So yeah, before we get ready to wrap it, I just want to make sure throw it to the floor. Any of you guys got any other questions or remarks as we move towards that match come Friday?
I've hit up anything I was looking up.
Like personally, and as I'm thinking about who I would want to see, Sage Phillips in the ring with, Mike Quackenbush.
Oh man,
can we have that happen?
Ooh, that'd be fun. I just recently did a Quackenbush seminar 2 months ago, and man, the knowledge that man has.
Everyone says that. Everyone, well, it's just something that as a fan, we wish that we can just be able to, at least get 10% of it. But everyone says that exact statement,
and it's justified.
One of my favorite matches of all time, and it may actually be my favorite. I'm just gonna have to decide on it. Is Quackenbush versus then known as Claudio Castagnoli from the Ted Perry Invitational at IWA Mid-South 2006. Mm-hmm. Amazing match. Absolutely one of my favorites. And that was over 10 years ago. And this fact that he's still doing it, he's not aged a day. And he's still doing it up in Chikara in a big, big way, keeping that promotion going. And he really, really is just a hell of a wrestler. Quackenbush has done things that I've never seen anybody do before.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I don't know. He's if you want to talk about ringcraft and wizardry, then Mike Quackenbush is definitely on a different level.
Mike Quackenbush is definitely the Dumbledore of ringcraft and wizardry. I would say that.
I knew it.
But Quackenbush, it's interesting. Him and the School of Roc actually have a lot of connections together. A lot of my classmates have gone through Chikara Pro at some point in their careers. And it really all started back in 2000. It was in 2006 as well. Mike Quackenbush came up to Indianapolis, Indiana for Insanity Pro Wrestling. He wrestled my trainer, Billy Rock. That match is up on YouTube, and if you guys get a chance to watch it, I definitely highly recommend it because that match definitely showed Billy could hang with the best, and it started a relationship that would go years from now from that match to me making my Chikara debut last 2 weeks ago. It all connects just through that match.
Mm. We are live on YouTube, so I'll make sure I get these matches in the description for fans to just find easy access to watching it. So I'll make sure I do my justice there. Mm-hmm. Will, did you have anything else before we get ready to wrap this up?
I think I'm pretty good. We have covered this up backwards and forwards and Nova Pro to getting their start, and I'm as excited for this Friday. I'm ready to see this darn match with Gresham.
Same here, man. Same here.
So I did speak to him earlier. He was very busy, man, but he saw the tweets. He was aware that this interview was going down. So he wanted to place a statement for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had some words for you, and I have to be honest. The statement, right? Mm-hmm. You know Gresham. Anyone who's ever spoke to Gresham, he is very intelligent. He's straightforward. And I don't know why I was selling myself short, but I was like, oh, he's going to give me like a one-liner. I'm about to read you a BCR. I'm just letting you know that. Okay. So let's get to it. So, and I quote, he says, I seen him post on Twitter, the student will become the teacher and cute things like I will beat him. But the funny thing is he wasn't man enough to tag me in any of those tweets. So does he really believe this? LOL. Man, I've been traveling the world for the last decade, competing against and defeating some of the best talent this world has ever had to offer. So come Friday, Sage, you're going to need way more than words to beat me. Just because Nova Pro and his fans believe you are ready to go to the next level doesn't make it true. But don't get me wrong. I watch you. You're good. But I watch everything. I'm a student of the game. I remember watching you in small events in the Midwest. And to see you now taking on some of the best in the world, holding your own, I respect that. And I know how hard it is, no doubt. All you need is one big win to get the ball rolling. Unfortunately, man, it won't be this Friday. End quote. So with that being said, and I know that's on the spot, but you know Gresham, and if you're going to be able to get a victory with him, you need to be ready for all things at all time. So with that being said, what is your remarks back to Mr. Jonathan Gresham?
Jonathan Gresham, I know you follow me on Twitter, so I don't need to tag you so you can see my tweets. That, first and foremost. And Gresham, I know you wrestle everybody and everywhere and every place, but you're wrestling me this Friday. So Gresham, I want the best the Octopus can offer because my Ringcraft and Wizardry is going to beat you come this Friday.
And just to put an exclamation point on that, for anyone who don't know where you are on social media, plug all of that right now.
Absolutely. Facebook, Sage Phillips. Twitter, Sage Phillips 7. Instagram, Sage Phillips _7. I do have a website. I barely use it. sagephillips.weebly.com. And you can check me out on Pro Wrestling Tees for some merchandise and t-shirts. Just look at the name Sage Phillips.
And all that is in the description already. Strong words from Mr. Sage Phillips as he makes his remarks before his match with Jonathan Gresham come this Friday. It's the Summer of George for Nova Pro Wrestling. For me, I don't have anything else. Anyone else, so we can wrap this up?
It's all good, man. See you Friday.
Yeah, let's take it home.
All right, so Sage, definitely thank you for taking some time. We look forward to it. As Will said, anyone who is not in the Northern Virginia DMV area, you can watch this exclusively live on powerbomb.tv. Get your free 20 days at Nova 20, or is it Nova Pro 20?
Nova Pro is the code.
Yes. So you don't have to miss Summer of George, and you can watch all the other great Nova Pro events. You can watch their first match. You can watch all of Sage Phillips' matches at Nova Pro at powerbomb.tv. You can step over to their Twitter page as well, powerbomb.tv on Twitter. All your information for Nova Pro at VA Wrestling. You also can find that information also at our website at biggoldbellgroup.com. If you have any other questions and just completely lost and none of that mean anything to you, give us a tweet. We'll hook you up. We'll make sure we get you in the right direction, get the ball going. But this Friday, we are at Summer George back at the Annandale Volunteer Fire Department. Also, too, thank you, you two, for cooperating today because last week we had some technical difficulties. We made it through it, but thank God we didn't have any of those today.
For sure.
So, yeah, so Sage, thanks for coming on, man. We look forward to seeing you. All your information is all in the description. And for the Big Gold Bell Group, we will catch you guys live for the pre-show this Friday as we get you ready for Summer of George.